recently featured on the Netflix 3-part series, Depth v. Heard. But I am very happy with my portrayal because they took pieces of content that I'm proud of. And again, I made a video letting everyone know, I know you guys are giving your opinions, but use the word allegedly. Say things like, in my opinion. And I'm very happy to report that people are still doing that on TikTok because they get a lot of traction with their videos. We have friends who are on TMZ, on the front page of Google, everywhere.
The Love and Order Podcast with your host, Lawyer Lamore.
This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The opinions expressed on this podcast are not legal advice that can be relied on. They are based solely on the limited information provided. These opinions do not create any attorney-client relationship. Those seeking legal advice should contact an attorney in the appropriate jurisdiction and practice area.
Okay, so today we have Leonard Atlas on the podcast, and I see Leonard as the salesperson's salesperson. And when we first met, we actually met in person at Brooklyn Bagel. And I know you have this whole story about from Brooklyn to Bel Air. And I'm very much from Beverly Hills to Beverly Hills, never left this place. So why don't you tell us, Leonard, your journey from Brooklyn to Bel Air? And then we're going to get into cockroaches. Yes. Cockroaches. It makes sense with Brooklyn. Doesn't make sense with Bel Air, but
absolutely.
Get right into it.
So Brooklyn to Bel Air, firstly, thank you for having me here. It's my honor. Absolutely. Brooklyn to Bel Air is three things. It is my physical journey from Brooklyn. You can still hear it. 30 years I'm in LA and I sound like I'm on Flatbush Avenue. 30 years I can't get rid of the accent. In fact, every year my accent gets stronger. I don't know what the hell it is.
Love it.
Brooklyn to Bel Air is also, though, my journey from blue collar to white collar. So I grew up in a family-owned business called Atlas Floral Decorators. My father and three uncles came home from World War II, and they started a floral decorating company in Brooklyn. And a week into the business, my father went into Manhattan to find the sales office, and he found it in a little place called the Plaza Hotel. So my family was the Plaza Hotel Florist from 1945 until the hotel shut down, and then the Pierre Hotel. And over the 40s and 50s and 60s, they became America's largest floral decorating company, doing about 100 weddings and bar mitzvahs a night, 100 parties a night in the New York Tri-State area.
What?
Yeah, we would come to work in April and we would go home in July. We never took a day off between April and July because it was all the parties.
Wow.
So I learned what hard work was at a very young age. And I'm talking literally 80, 90, 100 hours a week. I left that family business as a newlywed in 1987 because I knew I could do it better and smarter myself. And I did commercial work. And I got hired to decorate Madison Square Garden for Christmas. And I was... Yeah, a Jewish kid from New York doing Christmas at Madison Square Garden. Go figure.
I love it. I was
42 feet off the ground, installing 3-foot Christmas ornaments, illuminating them, and I electrocuted myself. And my staff lowered me to the ground, and I thought I had died. I had electricity running through my body. If you've never been electrocuted, it's not a fun thing.
Never been electrocuted.
You don't know if you're alive or dead. And at that moment, though, I decided I'm getting the hell out of this business. And I transitioned from floral decorating. And I got into public speaking and training. And I started working with entrepreneurs, teaching people how to start businesses. And I just had this gift for gab. So I started working with non-selling professionals, attorneys, accountants, and engineers that were shy. Shy is the wrong word, introverted. But they also went to school for years and years and have all these diplomas. So they didn't have to pick up the phone and cold call and risk their reputation. They're used to the phone ringing and people calling them for their advice, and they charge for it. Well, Brooklyn to Bel Air is going from working hard, floral decorating, to working smart. I sell intellectual property now. I get paid for speaking. But it was also from working, so it was working from blue collar to white collar, but it was also working hard to working smart. And that's what I made my career about for the last 30 years, teaching my clients around the world. Yeah, you got to work hard, but first you got to work smart. And most of the time when you work smart, you don't have to work as hard. And if you follow certain principles of spirituality in the universe, Deepak Chopra says, the grass does not work hard at growing. It just grows. Ooh. So when people are working too hard to grow their business and too hard to attract business, something's wrong. There's a blockage somewhere. They're doing something not in alignment. So I created Mission Profitable. And we trademarked 80-20 professional sales because the 80-20 rule, Pareto's principle, which I never knew of as a kid. Too bad I didn't. But it basically says that 80% of the results happens from 20% of the effort. So I almost called it crystal ball selling but I thought that was still too airy fairy. And, I was still in New York at hard. And with companies in LA, would they get crystal ball selling? So 80-20 professional selling has become the benefactor of what I do with Pareto's principle, teaching people, and you ready for this, to disqualify instead of pre-qualify. Everybody tries to pre-qualify. If they're selling insurance, oh, you have a new car, you need insurance. Oh, you're buying a new house, you need insurance. Everybody's trying to make people fit. But what happens with Pareto's principles, we know that 80% of the time we're getting lied to, stalled. They just want free consulting. They want free advice. So if you look at 80-20 sales, you realize, Limor, that 80% of the time people are working, they're not being productive and getting towards transactions. As soon as you stop going for the yes and you start to disqualify and go for the no, what would be a deal breaker? Obviously. Oh, you tell me your brother-in-law is an insurance guy, so you'd never buy insurance from anybody other than your brother-in-law, correct? Even if it was better, cheaper, even if it was free, you would still never not buy from your brother-in-law. And if they say that's correct, it would have to be my brother-in-law. What are you doing there? You don't belong. You're not going to sell. So I was doing these workshops all over the world, and young people would say, this works for dating. You should do this for dating. And I used to say, yeah, but my wife won't let me do the research. Well, for the last 10 years, we ended our marriage of 27 years, and I've been doing the research. And I have found that even with dating, it's so much less pressure to disqualify than pre-qualify.
I love that. And the go for the no, I think that's one of the chapters in your book.
Yes.
Is it go for the no? Is that?
Yes, yes, but politely and eloquently and respectfully.
Yes. But that idea, just like you said, when you are dating, if you can just, I don't know, does that mean you would kind of decrease the pool of candidates?
Well, yes, but hang on a second. So let me back up. My mission has been to put the truth back into selling. When you say salespeople or lawyer, both of them have a really bad reputation in America, right?
Yes.
But salespeople, differently than lawyers, salespeople, because they never want to hear no. They don't know when to give up, and they just keep harassing and hawking you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what if a salesperson changed their attitude from scarcity, I can't leave, I can't allow this no to stay as a no. And what if they said there's millions of prospects out there for me? What am I spending all my time, energy, resources trying to convince somebody when there are other people who I don't have to convince? They will naturally say yes because it's the right offer, the right timing, I'm the right person, whatever. So the same is true with dating. Some people, it's funny, with long distance dating, some people say, what's the big deal? San Diego, it's only 150 miles. Well, I don't want to be 3 hours away for a date, right? Some people don't care. For me, it's really important.
Okay.
I want a woman who's really close by. If we're going to date, I want to see her every day.
Of course. This sounds like a more stress-free. It's funny. It's a more stress-free way to get better results. That's what it sounds like.
It starts off by having criteria, and I don't want to reduce romance and love to something on paper with a checklist. But let's face it, we all have certain things that make sense or don't make sense for us. Exactly. Whether it's religious beliefs, political beliefs, lifestyle, health. A non-smoker does not want to date a smoker. So the sooner you find out they're a smoker, the sooner we're not a fit. I met a woman a year or two ago. She does like 3 Burning Mans a year. She has costumes and wardrobes. I mean, she spends 6 weeks a year at Burning Man. It's her life. And I'm not judging. It's just not my life. That's not how I want to spend that much time in costumes and this and her trailers and the alcohol, the ice cubes and the whole thing is about going to different Burning Man 3 times a year. All the power to her. It's just not my fit. So why waste each other's time? Right? Now we're talking about dating as opposed to business, but you're an attorney, right? Do you appeal to every single person? See, I loved you immediately because you're so approachable. You're not, as I said, with the ruffled collar, with the pearls. That's not you. You're approachable. You're young and hip. You talk English. You're just every person's lawyer, right?
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. I always say it's a vibe. That's what I say. Okay. We have to connect, especially in the family law world, right? You are telling me all of the intimate details about this relationship that ended up not working that you thought was going to work. We have to be comfortable both ways. You have to be comfortable telling me these things so I can strategize for you.
So I'm sure there are some people going through a divorce and they want an old-fashioned law firm in a big office tower with all those amenities and accoutrements and things like that. Fine, but that's not you, right? And you can't be that, and you're not trying to be that. So now, by the way, what are the disqualifiers when we don't get hired? So with corporate sales development, with my work, when I'm brought in to train a sales force in a company, they're always thinking about price. And I say to them early on, can we talk budget real fast? Because if you're looking for the cheapest, it ain't me. In fact, I'm more like the more expensive. If you don't want to spend the money up front and you rather do this 3 or 4 or 5 different times, then don't hire me. Please do not hire me. And as soon as you tell somebody don't hire me, guess what they think? FOMO.
Yeah, FOMO. It's so good. It is so good.
And why should I have to defend my price later? Oh, that's expensive. I told you up front we were expensive. This is not cheap. We're going to do it once. You're never going to have to do it again, but you're going to pay for it. So I never have. And by the way, it's the same thing with handling objections. Don't wait for the objection to happen. Put it on the table first. So like you might say, I'm not a large firm. I'm a sole practitioner. If that's an issue for you, then I'm not the right lawyer for you. If they need a big law firm with lots of people, lots of resources, if they need that, fine, but it's not you, right? You would say, sorry, I don't fit the criteria.
Absolutely. I tell people, listen, your case needs more manpower.
Correct. So you're not right for everybody.
Absolutely right.
And
absolutely.
There are some companies that I can't train because they want 25 trainers to show up all over the country at once and train 1,000 people like that. I train snipers. I train groups of 30 maximum, and I can only handle 2 or 3 groups per client. So more than 100 people per client per year, I'm not training. Right. If you have that many but I do mainly B2B work. So my work is commercial real estate, financial services, insurance, deregulated energy, mechanical contracting, and HVAC, where there's a very high return on investment. Most of my clients get between a $5 and $10 million return for every $100,000 they spend with me.
Wow.
There's no convincing. And my fee is a postage stamp.
Right. So hang on, let's backtrack then. Why do you think, because you're dealing with big dogs, right? Why do you think people across these different professions and in their lives, right, with dating, any type of relationship, why are they not already doing this? Why are they not already going for the no? What is it that hasn't clicked for them?
Oh, it's counterintuitive. If you're an old-fashioned IBM type company, I'm a maverick. You're never going to hire me. You want to buck the system? What do you mean go for the no? We want to do here's our presentation. Let me show you PowerPoint slides. I mean, by the way, I teach my people to go on a first sales call with nothing with them. No briefcase, no laptop, no flip chart, no brochures. Whatever got you in the door to get the appointment over the phone, let's say, the legitimacy was established. They've been to your website, they've been referred to you, whatever it might be, you're credentialed, right? Now go meet with them, and it's a consultation. It's a conversation. Are we connecting? Am I learning about you? Are you learning about me? Are we compatible or not compatible? Because before you spend those 5 hours, 20 hours, 50 hours, whatever the thing is to put your proposal together, don't you want to know that there's a reason to do it, and that there's a likelihood of getting hired, and that there's compatibility? So I take all the pressure off of everybody I work with. The first conversation, bring nothing, just yourself, and have a conversation. Now, if they're not look, you and I met for bagel, and we were like brother and sister right away. We just connected. It was just very easy talking to you, right? There was no fear and this and that and where'd you come from. It was just conversant and comfortable. When you don't have that kind of chemistry, it's called catastrophe.
Yes.
So I refer to it. It's chemistry or catastrophe. 99% of the time, it's going to be chemistry, and you're going to get along and go to the next step. But that 1 or 2% when it's not happening and we don't get along, acknowledge, say, Limor, it doesn't sound like we're a fit for each other. How about we just agree to move, part company? Now, the whole cockroach thing.
Yes, we need to get to this cockroach thing because it's something that you mentioned briefly. We touched on it briefly when we met, and I just thought, hang on, I can't even get over the name. I love this, and it's so, so brilliant. Go ahead.
So 30 years ago, really, it's 30 years ago, 1993, I went to Sydney, Australia for 2 weeks, and I stayed 6 months. Now, 30 years ago, you weren't even born yet. There was no email. There was no text messaging.
That's 30 what years Leonard ago, thinks. Everything. Let's let him think that. Go ahead.
30 years ago, we had a lot less technology in business and in sales. And I would have people say to me, I've called somebody twice. They haven't called back. I guess they're not interested. And I'd say, you tried some, and we're talking about in business. This was not dating. We're talking in business. And I'd say, so you tried twice. You don't even know that they got the message. It might have gone to voicemail. The voicemail might not have recorded. It might have been to a secretary. Might have been temporary. Who knows? But have you tried other modalities? So in New York, where I'm from, we had cockroaches. And it doesn't matter rich or poor, fancy or not, it doesn't matter. There are cockroaches in buildings on Park Avenue, everywhere.
Yep.
How do cockroaches get in? Through the cracks. And the cracks could be in the floor, in the wall, in the outlet, in the ceiling, in the light, in the air vents. Sometimes cockroaches come alone. Sometimes they bring a friend. So when people would say to me, I've called twice, I sent an email, they didn't respond, and they're giving up. I said, what are you giving up? Be a cockroach. And it just kind of, like, as a New Yorker, it was automatic. What do you mean being a cockroach? Well, I don't know how you're going to get in, but when a cockroach is hungry, they're making a commitment. They're getting in. There's cheese in that kitchen. They're going to get to the kitchen. I don't know how, but they're getting there. If you're in business development and you made a commitment to get somewhere, are you really going to give up because they didn't respond to an email or a phone call or a text? Or are you going to try everything? I have a client right now trying to get into one of the biggest companies in the world, to their CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. And this person is so insulated, very hard to get to. So they've been paying me for what I call structured networking. When they have a specific target they need to get to, and I feel I can succeed, they engage my company to do a structured network and get specifically into that person's office.
Wow.
I actually uncovered an attorney who knows this company's general counsel, and that's how I'm cockroaching in. I didn't go through Chief Marketing Officer. I didn't go through CEO. I didn't go through LinkedIn. I didn't go through, I'm going through attorney to get to the Chief Marketing Officer. So a cockroach says, what are all my opportunities? Now, by the way, I've taught thousands of people make the wrong call on purpose. You want to talk to the CFO, but if you cold call the CFO, they're going to hang up. You're not even going to get through. Call the VP of HR. VP of HR can't wait to talk to somebody. Nobody calls them. Everybody hates them. When you call the VP of HR and say, oh, hi, who is this? Oh, Mary, I'm about to talk to your CFO. Can I ask you some advice? I want to get some guidance and just a little lay of the land of the company. They're happy to share their insights with you. Number one. And number two, when they transfer the call to the CFO, the phone system says that it's coming from HR, not from some sales organization on the outside cold calling.
Right.
So an example of cockroach marketing is intentionally make the wrong call first. At least you're in the building. You talk to somebody in the company, and it's not the buyer, so they can't tell you no. You're not asking them to buy. You're just asking them for advice and guidance.
Brilliant. It's so smart.
So with cockroach marketing, I often have people go to companies' websites and see what nonprofit events are they going to be at. Mm-hmm. Are they going to be at a golf outing? Can they now pay $85 and go sign up and be at a golf outing and meet a CEO? Would you pay $85 to meet a CFO? You know? By the way, LinkedIn is the new cold call. So this is a little part of the podcast.
Okay.
You cannot make a cold call today without checking the name on LinkedIn.
You're right. Yeah.
I saw your name on the Beverly Hills Bar Association because I did a podcast for them. Mm-hmm. And when I went to look at my video, yours came up.
Yep.
And I saw you, and I immediately typed your name into LinkedIn. Why wouldn't you go there to get free information about the person, their history, their career, who you're connected with? all that good stuff.
So true.
So anybody today listening to this podcast that for business purposes, I can't say for dating, but for business purposes, you've got to check LinkedIn first.
Let me tell you something. LinkedIn is a great resource for dating as well. You want to know where someone works? You look up where they work, and guess what? The next step is go to glassdoor.com, see how much they make. From LinkedIn, you could go through those connections. And then, because a lot of the people you connect with on LinkedIn, it could have just been from one networking event, right? But if you connect on LinkedIn, then you see all the people that they're connected to. And those are the professionals they're connected to that they want to look professional to.
So LinkedIn is a big component of cockroach marketing, because why would you pick up the phone and call a stranger before you found out that we know somebody in common?
Yep.
Who knows where their alma mater is, where their kids, whatever it is, right? There's a saying, it doesn't matter what you know, it's who you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the correct saying. It's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's what you know about who you know.
I love it. What you know about who you know.
What you know about who you know. So if you're going to make a cold call to a CEO or CFO or whoever it is, and you know nothing about them, that's one kind of phone call. But if you can say, hey, I saw on LinkedIn, and by the way, connect with them on LinkedIn and send a note before you make the cold call. Now, there are some people who check LinkedIn every day or every week, and they respond to their connections, and they add people, and they communicate. Others signed up for an account in 1972 and they haven't been there since. They're not there. But give it a shot. Now, only when you're desperate, coming from scarcity, do you have to make the call this minute. But as soon as, right? And if you remember, the very first connection I sent you was either a LinkedIn or an email, though, mentioning Beverly Hills Bar Association. I took the coldness away from this. It was not a cold call.
100%. How could I say no to at least engaging in a reply email back with someone who has watched me in one of my presentations?
Right.
That's the entire reason I do those presentations.
And by the way, I didn't know where this was going to lead to a few months later, but by avoiding a cold call and checking you out and seeing through the bar and through LinkedIn and emailing you that way and finding our rapport, our connection, that is proof positive of what cockroach marketing with 80-20 means.
Yep.
Now look, can I give a plug? Is that a bad thing?
Of course, go. Yes.
So most of my workshops are in-house for companies.
Mm-hmm.
A few times a year, I build my own workshop where I fill the room. October 10, 11, and 12 in Santa Monica, we're doing a 3-day 80-20 professional sales introductory program. It's for entrepreneurs, it's for non-selling professionals, and it's for sales professionals that either don't have a game and need to start, or know they need to update and upgrade, or they haven't come up with a new methodology post-pandemic. Everybody's business was changed through the pandemic. Everybody. Yep. I'm consulting with so many law firms now that have the return to work issue going on.
I believe it.
And the power's in the wrong place. They're trying to get people to come back after 3 years in their pajamas because I told you so. Well, they've had freedom for 3 years in their pajamas and Ugg boots. They don't want to go back full time because I told you so. If you have a compelling financial argument why it's important, and then we can negotiate maybe 2 days a week, 3 days a week. So this workshop is for people starting a business, in a business, looking to take their business or their sales career to the next level, or finding their entrepreneurship. So go to email me at Submission Powerful, and we'll send you an event PDF, and I'm happy to talk with people about it as well.
Yeah, I love that. This is the type of event that I wish I knew existed when I went solo, because initially I was working at a firm, then I worked at a different firm, then I was going solo, and then I got into social media and all of these principles. I mean, the way that you've even written the book that's on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, What's Holding Your Sales Back. It's such a smart way to write a book like this, because I think it's every chapter you do this, from what I saw. Find it, face it, and fix it. And it is so clear. There is an outline in every single chapter. What is going on?
So the book was written by myself and Peter Farkas, Esquire, my brother from another mother. Now I'm Brooklyn to Bel Air. He's Budapest to Beverly Hills.
Oh, I love it. Love it.
He's got a slightly different journey, but he's an attorney who loved sales training, loved platform speaking. And we partnered together over 20 years ago. And he's been all over the world, as I have been, different clients, different continents. And we decided finally it was time to put a book together. And for the people that don't get to our workshop or want to read in advance of the workshop or have a follow-up tool after. But what I want to share with your audience is we asked over 10,000 people what's holding your sales back. And when we boil all the answers down, it comes down to one of three things or a combination. They're not talking to enough people, or they're not talking to the right people, or they don't know what to say or do. And the good news is if you've said to yourself, oh, one of those or two of those or all three of those are my issues, they're all correctable. But the issue about not talking to enough people, the right people, usually is a self-esteem issue. If you don't want to hear no, if you think that no is rejection and rejection is personal, you're never going to take the shots. I can't make you bulletproof if you think that when they say no, I'm not interested in legal or in engineering or whatever your thing is, right? And you're in the right business to understand this. I say there's only one form of rejection. When you come home at night and all your clothes are on the front lawn and the locks have been changed. That's rejection. But somebody who doesn't want to come to your workshop or doesn't want to buy your product or your service, that's not rejection.
I love that. So, okay. So rejection is a big thing in, obviously, like you said, in my work, but in business, because you also mentioned scarcity mindset a little bit earlier. And then there's, obviously abundance mindset, which professionals that I meet, they don't get it. They don't get it. They think everything is competition. They don't understand there's enough to go around. And they're not also then willing to put in the time to network in a specific way because for them, they're also scared of the rejection or whatever it is.
You know why they don't get abundance? Because they don't know how to make lasagna. I use food as a metaphor for everything.
I love it.
And recipes. So when I left my marriage and my girls were 9 and 11 years old, and we had this new house and new kitchen together, and my girl said, Daddy, we want to make lasagna, but not the greasy kind. Can you find a really good lasagna? So I said to my 11-year-old, Google the best lasagna. So she Googled the best lasagna. And we got a recipe, and we printed out, and we've been making it for the last 10 years. So I asked people, how do you make lasagna? And I asked people from all over the country, all over the world, how do you make lasagna? And people have a recipe, a pound of meat, a pound of pork, tomato sauce, right? Different kinds of cheeses. We know what ingredients go in. We know how long at 450, then you lower it to 375, then you cover it, then you uncover it. Everybody has a recipe how to make lasagna. And if they love it and it's good, they could send that recipe to their friend across the country and they could replicate that lasagna. So I make that a metaphor for a sale. Why don't you have a recipe for a sale? Now, abundance is how many people do you have to talk to generate X amount of appointments, to get that amount of proposals, to get one person to hire you? It's a recipe. There are ratios. If you don't know that you need to talk to 20 people or 50 people or 100 people or 500 people, you have no idea what. And I also use a deck of cards. In a deck of cards, there are 4 aces. So theoretically, every 13 cards could be an ace. But the worst case is if they're all stacked because it's a new deck, you could have to go through 48 cards before you get an ace. Now, if you knew there were 4 in the deck, okay, I didn't think I'd have to wait to 48, but they're there, 48, 49, 50, there come my aces. People that don't get abundance are not in tune with their recipe. So one of the exercises we do in the workshop is we ask you to debrief, where did your last piece of business come from? Where does your business come from? 100% of my business is word of mouth referral. Now I've been doing it 30 years. The people I've trained have left companies, they've started companies, they keep coming back. The latest thing now is I'm training my clients' children that are graduating college. And that to me is the biggest compliment in the world.
Yes, 100%.
I have people that I trained 30, 35 years ago, and now their kids that are 22, 23 are in my workshops, and the parents said, you got to go to Len. Len's going to train you. He trained me. You got to go. And it's a whole new generation now. But so I know where my business comes from, where my money comes from.
Yep.
I know what my recipe is. I don't have to talk to new people. No, I do to keep fresh. Why did I reach out to you? Not because I had to, because I wanted to. There's a big difference. And I make a game of it. To me, it's a game. Can I turn a stranger into money? You were a stranger on a YouTube page at the Beverly Hills Bar Association 2 months ago. And now here we are doing a podcast that you have millions of viewers. How cool is that, right? Because I opened my mouth and we met for a bagel.
Because you opened your mouth. It's great.
But you know what? Here's one of my adages. You can't lose what you don't have. Take the shot. Take the shot. For the longest time, my best friend's mother, who's 96, used to say to me, you're not going to meet a woman on the computer. You're not meeting a woman on the computer. You're going to meet her at the beach or at Whole Foods. So I'd be walking on the beach and see a gorgeous woman and thinking, am I a weenie? Am I going to just walk by and not say anything? Assuming they were age appropriate, right?
I pray so, yes.
So I would stop a woman and say, I know this is going to sound really bizarre. You got a quick second? And everybody says, sure, what? Say, my best friend's mother is 96, and she's really trying to help me find my next love. And she thinks it's not going to happen online. So I got to ask you, by the way, are you married? Because if you are, then that wouldn't be appropriate. And before you know, we're having a conversation. So, one of the things I got from Tony Robbins is you only have to be courageous for 10 seconds at a time. That question, to stop a woman in a bikini on a beach, you need to be courageous for 10 seconds.
I love that.
Now, there have been a few, there was one Israeli woman I met on the beach who said, I'm flattered, but my husband is over there with my children.
But then
Every day, nice to meet you, bye-bye.
And that makes for such a funny, pleasant interaction. It's so, it's such a compliment to them. It's just,
of course,
there's nothing there's no rejection or whatever it is.
But the first question is, do you have a second? And because I always ask people, do you have a second, out of respect for time? Always, on every phone call.
I love that.
Even when I'm calling my daughters, did I catch you at a bad time? You got a second? But then the next question in that vein was, are you married? Because if you are, this is inappropriate. I want them to know I'm not trying to pick up a married woman. That's not my MO.
I love that.
So that courage makes me bulletproof, which is why when a client says, I need to reach the CEO or CMO of this major billion-dollar company, go for it. I put my team in motion. Because what's the worst that could happen? We take rejection so seriously, but what does that no cost us? What did we lose? So the way I help people overcome rejection is how much you're earning right now from that name. You want to sell that company or date that person. What benefit are you getting now? Zero. So if you make the attempt, what does it cost you? A phone call, an email, cost you nothing, right? And what if you get a negative reaction? What if, no, we're good, no need, we got somebody already? What'd you lose? You can't lose what you don't have. So take the shot.
So I'm a sucker for these types of workshops and taking, the adages, the quotes, the mindset tricks, all of that. Tony Robbins, love all of those things. I mean, I have my certain thoughts on certain things, but I do love them, right? And I know that one thing that jumped out at me for your workshop is in the same vein of what we're talking about, remove the fear of rejection permanently. Because once you go to these workshops or read the books and do some of the work, maybe for a couple months, what I've experienced and with people that I've attended with, maybe for a couple months you're in it, right? And you're doing really well. You're sticking to whatever you learned, whatever it is. But to permanently remove the fear of rejection. Now, without giving us all the information we're going to learn at the workshop through the books, give us a snippet or a preview of where does the permanent part come in? How do you do that? How do you make it stick?
I'm going to give you an answer that I've given for 30 years. Sales development is a process, not an event. For most people, you don't come to a workshop and you're changed for life. Poof, there you go, magic dust. That's not for most people. I will tell you this, though. Statistically, a third of my audience has an immediate, dramatic improvement from the workshop. A third require ongoing reinforcement. So we do that in person, by phone, Zoom, live, email, etc. And about a third have no improvement because they're in a comfort zone. Now, these could be people that are 63 years old thinking I'm close to retirement, I don't need to change. Or these could be 22-year-olds that say, don't fit for me. I don't like that shit. That ain't my style, So anybody can be in a comfort zone. I will tell you, though, that I have clients that have utilized me for ongoing coaching. And I don't call it sales coaching. I call it income coaching. And they may pay $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 over the course of a year to make hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars of sales. If you're not willing to invest that into that, it's look, I'm a postage stamp. In most of my clients' cases, my cost is a postage stamp. It's insignificant. My real estate clients make between $5 and $10 million for every $100,000 they spend. Who cares about 100,000 if you're going to make 5 to 10 million in profit? Because if I can help you unlock what's holding that deal back, or the more that deal is dead a long time ago, I should move on. Stop spending any time and resources. Two of my longest term clients, and I mean over 20 years, when they first engaged me, one had 3,000 proposals out on the street that he said, this is an engineering company. He said, I know most are dead, but we don't know how to distinguish. We have no criteria who gets a proposal, who does not. And another company said, we spend $6 million a year chasing business that we don't close. Can you help us have more discretion? That was the word they used. So 80-20 is by disqualifying, you're finding out the criteria. Under what circumstances would you consider switching? So I do a lot of commercial real estate. Everybody has a commercial real estate broker. Somebody put you in your current lease, right? So when a prospect says, I already have a broker, most people start fighting, but we're bigger, we're better, we're smarter, we're there, we're that. And I say, stop fighting with them. Agree with them and say, Limor, I know you have a broker. The only question is there anything that you wish could be done differently or better that would warrant us spending 5 minutes talking? If you're 100% happy, if you tell me you're 100% happy, and you could change the word broker to lawyer, accountant, insurance, plumber, if you're 100% satisfied with what you've got, you have no reason to talk to me. Are there any inefficiencies, any dissatisfactions, anything you wish could be improved that is not changing? If so, we have a reason to talk. If not, God bless. Keep my number. That's abundance. Because when you know how many divorcing couples are there? Are you just California? You really just work California,
I'm
right?
just California, and I'm even a little bit smaller than that. I like to do LA County cases.
How many LA County divorces are there a year?
Thousands.
And you need how many to make a phenomenal living?
A couple.
So don't you absolutely come from abundance from day one?
100%. 100%.
You don't need any one couple or any one family to hire you to make your living or make your year. So look, sales is both an art and a science. The art is your personality, your shtick, how you're memorable. I mean, as soon as I met you, heard you and met you, exactly.
I should be offended, but I'm not. What a compliment.
You stand out. As far as attorneys, I know a million attorneys.
Yeah.
You're the only one in a sweatshirt with their hair down who doesn't give a shit and is just real. And if that's what you're looking for an attorney, then you have no competition.
Yep.
So so sales is an art and a science. The art is your personality. It's your shtick. It's what makes you unique, what makes you memorable. The science, though, is what are the numbers you have to go through and where are you going to find them, right? So you're probably networking through certain communities, maybe ethnic communities, maybe mom communities, whatever. You have your niche, mommy groups. And that's where you get your business from. And it's word of mouth by this point. So I help all my clients identify I just trained an air conditioning engineer who's here only a few years from Egypt. And he was struggling. And I said, are you telling me there are no Egyptian engineering societies in Southern California? And we went on LinkedIn. And don't you know, we found Middle Eastern engineering societies?
Amazing.
And then he found this whole thing where this whole building complex is owned by an Egyptian guy. So, I mean, people want to do business with people that are like them, right?
Yes.
So an Egyptian guy who owns buildings would love to do his engineering and air conditioning with an Egyptian guy. So that's rapport, right?
Yeah, that's
rapport.
right. That's right.
People that we trust and respect that are similar to us.
What do you think about routines with sales? So I know sales has cycles, right? And you work with minimizing the length of that cycle to get from that first interaction to actually closing a sale or whatever the end goal is. Do you think that entrepreneurs or maybe non-sales, whatever, however you want to characterize it, do you think that routines are an important part of being able to actually do this type of work?
When you say routines, I think more about a systematic approach.
Okay. Yeah, systems.
Most people in sales do not have a system. And they are at the mercy of their prospect who's saying, do you have a PDF about this? Can you show me this? What colors does it come in? And the prospect is really controlling the process. In most cases, the prospect controls the process. They might say, hey, I'm calling 3 other companies and I want to compare you guys. So here's what I want from you, A, B, and C, and D. Who's in control? They are. What I teach is the 80-20 sales process. It's system, because system is an acronym. Save yourself time, energy, and money. Now, Limor, I'm going to tell you something, and we have a mutual acquaintance that I've introduced you to, and I think we're not going to embarrass anybody, but you're going to agree with me when I say this. In our relationship, I keep on driving. Limor, when are we doing the recording? What's going to happen? What's the timing? Right? It's called the clear and definite future. I'm in control of my business, and I'm always asking what's next and who's handling that step. Most people in business are unaware or too timid to take control of the timing and say, okay, so I'm sending you this information. Are you going to my website? Are you calling my recommendations, my referrals? How long is that going to take? Oh, so 2 days. So Thursday. Should we be speaking Thursday, or you want to wait till next week? Okay, next week, I'm calling you, or you're calling me. Do you know that? So we call it a clear and definite future, CDF. And I tell people at the workshop, you will make $1 million in your career with just this one technique. Take control over every next step. Whatever, and by the way, that's true for dating too. You know how many dates? Okay, nice seeing you, see ya. And you end like that, and then who's calling who? Can I call tonight? Does it look too needy if I call tonight? Do I have to wait till tomorrow? Should I call or should I text? Right? There's such miscommunication. And people are so afraid to make themselves vulnerable and be honest. My friends can't believe that I've called back the women that I have had a date with and didn't feel there was a connection with. And I would either call or text them and say, it was lovely meeting you. I don't see a long-term connection, so I want to wish you the best. Bye-bye. I'm old-fashioned that way. Why leave it loose? Why leave it dangling? Be an adult, be mature. And in business also, we meet people, they're not right for us, we're not right for them, or not right for this transaction. Chances are you're going to meet them again, right? So end it nicely, end it politely, end it professionally.
I think people need to rewind and listen to that 25 times, because I tell people in the dating world, this ghosting or everything you said in the beginning, trash, unnecessary, ridiculous. Send a text, be very clear. You want the next date. You don't want, I even tell people, get that second date. Listen, your first date, I'd love to see you again.
And do you know how many
Set up the next one.
But people play games.
They play games. That's right.
And I've dated a number of women that at the end of our first date, I'd say, I really enjoyed meeting you. I'd love to see you again. And they say, don't you know you're not supposed to ask a woman for a second date on the first date? I said, no, I didn't get that memo. And I thought I'd want to see you again. But if you feel that way, maybe we shouldn't. And again, when you come from abundance, you're willing to disqualify. If something is a yellow flag or a red flag early on, it ain't going to get better.
Exactly.
So
whether
that's in sales or dating, there are so many parallels. And it really comes from, be clear with what are your criteria? What are you looking to find? What are you looking to avoid? What's negotiable and what's not negotiable?
So out of
Until,
all, mm-hmm.
until you know what's important to you, again, whether we're talking social relationships, dating, romantic, or business, what is important to you in finding, and by the way, the question I ask in the workshop, so here's the actual question. In terms of interviewing a lawyer, Limor, I got to assume you have a criterion process. Can I ask you, what does your criterion process look like for interviewing a lawyer? So if you give me any of your criteria process and I'm not any of those, I'll let you know right away we're not a fit.
So do you think
that is? Do you know how empowering that is?
It's so empowering. So then what's your opinion on the dating apps? They are empowering because the criteria is right there. You can just, you could see whatever things are important. I don't even know anymore to people, but right. You can just swipe because certain things just on paper just don't even work. And then you go into the conversation and then you figure it out.
I will tell you that most people have false expectations about online dating.
Okay. It's fair.
I met a phenomenal woman a few months ago on online dating. We're very seriously involved now in a relationship. It took hundreds of women to find this person. I was willing to come from abundance, know my criteria. Now, I had a lot of first dates. I was always happy to meet somebody because you never know. How much can you tell by a photograph, by a profile, even by a phone call or a Zoom, right? Yep, so in most cases, I was willing to meet. But when they flake, when they cancel the last minute, things like that, that doesn't work for me, Yeah. So you have to know your criteria. But I met a guy a few weeks ago at a neighborhood event, and he said, you met her at online dating? It didn't work for me. I said, what do you mean it didn't work for you? Good-looking guy. So what do you mean it didn't work for you? He said, well, I probably met like 10 women. And I said, 10 women, what are you expecting? You're looking for something special. You're looking for magic. You're looking for love. 10 women, that's all you were willing to invest in? Really? So I think people have unreal expectations. I don't think they realize that it takes time and commitment. And I think that they're not judging people's actions. If people are flaky, and by the way, do you know Aziz Ansari?
Of course, yes.
Have you read his book?
No.
He wrote a book a few years ago that was originally supposed to be more like a joke and a comedy book, but it turned out to be a book about relationships. And he talked about 60, 70 years ago, our parents lived in the same block, in the same neighborhood. They knew each other. And that's true. My parents met in Brooklyn around the corner from each other. He said, but today people move all over the country. They don't know each other. They don't have the common roots, and they're meeting online and everybody's playing games. And Aziz Ansari says, if you text somebody on a dating site and it takes them 20 minutes to respond to you, you're automatically going to wait at least 20 minutes to respond back. And I say, I'm not playing that game. If I'm available and I get a text from somebody, I'm going to respond. I'm not going to wait a pre-described amount of time. I'm not playing games. And if the person I'm with is playing games, then they're not for me. So people are afraid to be real. Now, maybe they don't know who they really are yet, so they need to do some work. There's a lot of great development work, personal development work. Have you read the book Attached?
Yes.
Phenomenal book.
Phenomenal book.
My oldest daughter is 22 and she's in a relationship. And I said, Zoe, have you read this? She said, Dad, I read it. It's phenomenal. I said, oh, I'm so proud of you for reading that.
I'm so proud of her for reading that too. I wish
I was in my mid-50s when I read it. They should have assigned that in high school.
Yes, it should be required reading before you get into your first romantic relationship.
100%.
That's what I think. It's one of those. It's so eye-opening because as you're reading it, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense too. You learn so much about yourself. It's incredible and it's so good.
So I love personal growth and development. I teach it for 30 years. Did you read the book, The Four Agreements?
Yes, I did.
So there's only one of them that I recite every single day to my clients.
Okay.
Be impeccable with your words.
Yes.
If more people were impeccable with their words, say what you mean for real and not the BS version. Be impeccable with your words because there's so much mutual misunderstanding, so much mutual mystification. People, oh yeah, let's do lunch. What does let's do lunch mean? Sure, let's follow up. What does that mean? Can we just do it now? You know the people that say, call me next week and we'll figure out a time to get together? They're lying to you. If they wanted to get together, they'd say, look, take out your calendar, Limo, when are we going to get to the next week? What do I have to call you next week to figure out when we're going to get together the week after?
Exactly right.
So I'm kind of old-fashioned in this way. I'm still young and hip, but I'm old-fashioned in that my word is my honor. And I only attract people that come from that place. If I can't trust you, what's the point of the relationship?
That's exactly right. Everything that you've said every time we've spoken, I'm sitting there like, wow, are we the same person? This is so, the fact that you're so successful and you've had this mindset is just, it gives me so much confidence in, you can always learn something new from everyone, right? Every time we speak, I'm learning something new, but just knowing that someone with your mindset is so successful in your work makes me so happy, because I think everyone should pay you to learn how to do these things. I really,
you know what I've learned from you? That an attorney can have such a large, prominent social media presence. I don't know of any other attorney. I've never heard of an attorney that has such a large following with hundreds of millions of views and things like that. Mind-boggling. How inspiring that was to me to even know that you can go there and do that. But there's something else I've learned from lawyers that you guys know in particular that most people don't. I ask 100% of my audience, what is your time worth an hour? And they don't have a clue. Well, if you're going to start a business or be in sales or whatever it is, or date, how do you know what to say yes to, what to say no to, if you don't know what your time is worth an hour?
That's so good. And that was one of the chapters in your book. I think that the beginning was, you need to figure out what is basically what you just said, what is worth your time and what is not worth your time. Delegate the other tasks, because you have to know what is not worth your time. Why are you giving your time away for free for, half of the day is gone?
And once you value your time, and see, lawyers, there are lawyers for $50 an hour. They'll wait online at DMV for you. There are lawyers for $900 an hour, lawyers for $2,500 an hour, right?
You're right.
They do different things. They serve different purposes. Well, who are you in that scheme of things? Where do you fit into your industry? You give your stuff away for free? That's called unpaid consulting. Or do people have to earn it? So when you value your time and you know your numbers and you come from abundance and you have your criteria and you realize that no is not rejection. In fact, no is getting you close to yes. So the quicker you can get a legitimate no, not a BS no, but the quicker you can get a legitimate no, they don't need it, they already have it, they already bought it, they're on the contract, whatever it is. The sooner you can get a legit no and move on to the next person, the closer you're getting to a yes. So no is not failure. Hawking the same people every day and every week and getting no progress, that's failure.
I know this is business advice, but that was the best dating advice I've heard in a long time.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you in closing, you know what got me to know that, to feel that way and bring the sales stuff to dating? The books that my therapist recommended when I was going through ending my marriage. And it talked about 50% of first marriages end in divorce, but greater than 65% of second marriages end in divorce. And I thought, well, that's weird. The number goes up. And I realized, because typically you leave a relationship and what do? You look for the opposite. Because that didn't work, so let me try the opposite. And then you try the opposite, you say, well, that's weird. That's not for me either. And now you have now you're lost, right? You don't know what works anymore. So I got very, very committed to finding out about me. What am I looking for? And I'll tell you, I'm very grateful to COVID for that. For most of it, my daughter was living home from college, living with me, and that was great. But when she went back to school and I was alone and we're still social distancing and isolating and all that, and dating was pretty hard, it became really important for me to identify that I'm fine alone. I don't need, and so when people say meet my better half and my other half, bad wording. You are a whole person on your own, with or without a spouse or a partner, you're a whole person, So being comfortable in your own skin by yourself, with yourself, is really important, because until you love yourself, how can you love others? So you can't rely upon somebody else to do it for you.
Incredible. Again,
Oh.
that's business advice and dating advice. Dating advice, business advice.
And you know what? They
love it.
get so entangled in my world because it's relationships. I'm not teaching sales training. I'm teaching interpersonal communications on whatever level that is, and how to get along and how to find out who are your people. You know, there's a woman, Shelley Campbell. She wrote the book, The Wealthy Spirit. She says there are three kinds of people: sharks, dolphin, and tuna. Sharks kill for a living. You don't want to associate with them. Tuna get eaten for a living. Dolphins dolphins are in packs and they have fun and they're playful. You want to find dolphins. Who are your dolphins? Because sharks are not the fun people. Tuna are the victims. Dolphins are the fun people.
Oh my God. I love that. I'm going to get a framed picture of a dolphin to put in my office. I love it. Leonard, tell us again about your workshop. When is it? How can we get in touch with you to sign up?
October 10, 11, and 12. Email me Atlas, ATLAS at missionprofitable.com. Put workshop in the subject line. Tell me something about yourself, and I'll send you the event PDF. It's not for everybody. We're not looking to get everybody. It shuts off at 30 people, so it's very selective. The published price is $3,000 per person for the 3 days. The early workshop discount of $2,500 is over, but I'm extending it for your audience. So anybody coming more is getting that. And if you bring 3 people or more, you get a volume discount. It's $2,000 per person.
I love that. I'm writing it down because I'm going to put it in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, one more thing. That book that you see on the page, this book, we can get this on Amazon, yes?
On Amazon, yep.
Perfect. I'll put that link in there too. Thank you so much. Of course.
Thank you.
This was so fun. I could probably stay on here for another 3 hours, but I'd rather see you again at Brooklyn Bagel. So we'll probably do that. Thank you again.
Let's do that.
Thank you again so much.
Have a great day.
This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The opinions expressed on this podcast are not legal advice that can be relied on. They are based solely on the limited information provided. These opinions do not create any attorney-client relationship. Those seeking legal advice should contact an attorney in the appropriate jurisdiction and practice area.